Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Movie Night here on the Anorex Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Samee Ramirez, and today I'm joined by Dom Martino. Dom, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, pretty good. I'm excited to talk about the first movie where The Rock actually turned into a rock, so that's going to be really fun.
True, this is true. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, we're back for another episode. It's been a little while, like Vin Diesel said in that commercial. It's been a while, but yeah, here we go.
But we are back. And we are back, and tonight we are talking about Jungle Cruise, the latest from Disney, starring, of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt. So I want to start out here real quick because, so Dom, you are not familiar really at all with the original ride, correct? You've never been to Disneyland?
Of course not. No.
Yes.
I've heard of the ride. I've seen footage of the ride.
Okay.
I've never ridden the ride, so there's that.
Right.
Yeah.
I have been on the ride many times. I'm a huge fan of the ride. And it's one of my favorites. I have to go on it every single time because it's one of the rides that it's different every single time, because you do know there's like an actual skipper there, so it's a little bit different every time. So I'm a big fan of the ride, and of course a big Disney fan, in case anybody doesn't know. So I just want to lay that groundwork going in. But I want to start again with our just overall thoughts. I quite enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a fun action adventure movie. It reminded me a lot of for me, it reminded me a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean, a lot of The Mummy in there. We can talk about that, how similar this movie was to 1999's The Mummy. But also, I mean, like, I saw this movie with my parents and they both said it reminded them of Indiana Jones, which it also reminded me of. But it made me for me, I was like, this seems like a pretty great, action adventure romp that a new generation of children are going to grow up loving. And I'm okay with that. I thought it was quite fun. My parents had Indiana Jones. I had The Mummy and Pirates of the Caribbean. The next generation will have Jungle Cruise, and I'm not mad about it. I thought it was fun. I thought my big critique is that it could have been about 20 minutes longer. It was long as hell, but that's really it from me. But again, I'm a big fan of it. So the big thing before we go into your thoughts, well, when you get into your thoughts, I just want to ask if you noticed anything that was a reference, you know what I mean? Like, if there's anything that stood out to you that you were like, I see that that's a reference, but I don't understand it.
Reference to the ride in particular,
yes.
Or just to something else? Okay.
Or to the ride, yeah. Because I will say, because a big thing I felt after this movie was I didn't know if people who were not familiar with the ride would understand some of the jokes and references in the same way. And I feel like if you didn't know that was some of the jokes were a reference, then I feel like they feel a little out of place. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I noticed a big reference when the title showed up and it said Jungle Cruise. I noticed that was a reference to the ride. Other than that, no, it probably all went over my head, to be honest with you. Like, I understand.
But it all worked. It all flowed for you. It didn't feel odd or anything. It was just the jokes of the movie.
Yeah, it just felt like it was a part of the thing. It didn't feel out of place or anything like that. It just felt like that was the writing and that's what they wrote for the movie. And I mean, obviously I knew that it had a skipper, the ride, so like obviously I caught that was in direct comparison as well. And I mean, the aesthetic was obviously something that reminded me of the ride as well, but aside from that, there wasn't like any, like, none of the dialogue stood out as a reference though. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I just kind of watched this movie as something new, and so that's probably,
how did you feel about it?
Well, it's probably a benefit on my part. Okay, so my thoughts.
Yes.
Take it back in time. I know I can never just give it to you straight. Did you like it or not? It's just not my style. Just not my style. But So to take it back in time, with my history of Disney, like while you were watching the animated shit, Sammy, I was watching things, which I did like the animated stuff too. So don't get me wrong, it was
Mhm.
a counterpart to it, but for me, it was things like Tron or like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, those types of
Right.
movies that like really appealed to me as a kid. And Disney used to make some like really high quality live action shit, and so after that, I mean, we kind of, I mean, they did it pretty consistently with live action stuff, like
Mhm.
like very adventurous feeling live action stuff, I should say.
Yeah.
Their adventure genre. They had a pretty
Narnia,
consistent Narnia, pretty
big
consistent
one.
run,
Yeah.
probably up until like Narnia, and then I
Hmm.
felt like after that we just lost that in
Yeah.
Disney.
It
Like
became
they
about remakes after that.
remakes, franchises, which is
Hmm.
fine, and I like a lot of it. But the adventure movies they did try to put out typically always tried to be a lot more than they needed to be. They kind of lost their
Right.
simplicity. Like Wrinkle in Time is one I'll reference right off the bat. That
Right.
movie is god awful, and
It was very bad.
it's most of their movies were like that. Every time they tried to tackle the adventure genre that didn't have anything to do with the franchise, and so I was excited to hopefully get the one that was gonna bring me back to that, because I have like a really high standard on Disney's adventure franchise, seeing
Hmm.
as how I grew up watching a lot of the classics.
Yes.
And you know, and so to me it's very hard. Just let me preface the review by saying it's very hard to please me with one of these Disney adventure movies,
Hmm.
because I'm always just going to look for the feel I had when I was watching a lot of the older stuff.
Right.
So with all that out of the way, this is it. It did it. It got me back
Wow.
into the groove. So I was very happy with the movie. You know, it's not
Happy
my
to hear it.
favorite, obviously, of the adventure genre. I still
Hmm.
put like Curse of the Black Pearl above that.
Oh my gosh, this movie has I mean I really like this movie, but this has nothing on Curse of the Black Pearl, man.
Yeah.
Not even like Curse of Black Pearl's on God Oscar level tier, and this is just
Yeah.
like a pretty good children's action adventure film, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but you know what I liked about it is
But the similarities are there.
they are. And what I loved
Yeah.
about it so much, this one in particular, is that it was marketed one way and it didn't try to be more than what it needed to be. It went
Right.
back to the simplicity of the adventure genre that Disney used to have, even though it has like some story beats in there that are, you know, a little bit more like you're gonna see certain things in here and you're gonna be like, what the fuck? I didn't
Hmm.
expect that. And it has kind of an expansive feel to it, which is fine. It still brings it back to the overall simplicity. You can kind of sit back and chill out, not have to worry about way too
Hmm.
much in this. And it doesn't have like, even though there are a couple gripes and nitpicks I have, it doesn't have these like massive glaring flaws to it, you know, that they usually have in these movies and anymore. And so I was really happy to see that. Like I didn't like watch this going at no point in time was I like that was really rough, like, and so that's a good
Hmm.
thing.
Right.
But on that same hand, this movie's not going to be anything spectacular or anything we haven't seen
Hmm.
before, but it's a fun little simple movie carried by two really charismatic actors, three if you include Jack Whitehall, who I thought was really good in
Did
the
you
movie, and
are you
he
on the
ended.
Jack Whitehall train now?
I'll look into him. You know, I mean, it's not like I'm a massive fan, but I hope he
Yeah.
gets hired more. You know, that was one
Hmm.
of the things I said in the non-spoiler reviews. I do hope we see him more in movies in the future. You know, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, maybe I'll look into his stuff and, you know, become an even bigger fan now. It's definitely motivated me more. He's definitely a very talented individual, and I'm happy he got cast in this. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt have wonderful chemistry. They care. That's what carries most of this movie for me,
Yeah.
is their chemistry between the two. The fact that they're just both charismatic, charming actors, extremely talented, know their craft, and this was written for them. You know, it was written for
Hmm.
them to play in, and that's fine. I think that's this movie was everything I was seeking it out to be for the most part.
Yeah.
It's nice when you get a Curse of the Black Pearl that completely surprises you at every turn, and you know, but this, even though this pales in comparison to that, this is still a pretty passable movie. It's nothing, again, it's nothing overly spectacular, but it's a good time. It's a fun time. I think more people should go out there and see it.
Mm-hmm.
because I think they will have fun with it. If you're just seeking out your summer blockbuster with Dwayne Johnson, this is it. So go check it
This is
out
it,
because
man.
it is. And it's one of his better ones too, which is
Mm-hmm.
the other thing about it is I like a lot of Johnson's movies. You know, I think I'm a huge fan of his. I think, him coming from where he came from and then, bringing it into the acting world and continuously growing as an actor is something to be admired. And I think that this is, of all the summer blockbusters he's done, this is definitely one of the better ones. So very happy to see it. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a Disney movie that I'll probably buy on 4K. It's really good. It's something I'll probably want to watch again at some point, I would imagine. So those are my thoughts.
No, hi, I mean, I kind of completely agree. I completely echo everything you said. It's really, again, it is really rooted again in the performances
Mm-hmm.
of Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt mainly, and Jack Whitehall, who I thought
Did you
was doing great.
Did you realize Jesse Plemons was in here until
I
you saw it?
did,
I did
yeah.
not. I don't remember
Oh,
seeing him
really?
in any of the marketing or anything, but he
That's
really
funny.
surprised me. I think he's one of the better character actors working right now, and I
Yeah.
thought he was so entertaining in this
He's
movie.
very every single time he does kind of like a character performance like this, it always turns out
Yeah.
it's never bad.
No,
So
never.
he's very consistent.
He's been in bad stuff, but he's never the problem with the movie. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
always like given 100% to whatever character he's doing, and
Yeah.
he was so entertaining in this one. I'll tell you, I
Mm-hmm.
laughed so many times with him in this, and even though he was
Yeah.
supposed to be the somewhat of a villain type in this, for sure,
Uh-huh.
it's like I like that. I liked the way that he played the cartoonish type villain in this.
Yes.
Like it worked for this movie. Like typically
Mm-hmm.
I would gripe against that, but like the mixture of his performance and the tone of the film, it just
It
worked really
worked.
well, and it was very entertaining to watch the whole time. So didn't realize he was in there. Didn't realize Paul Giamatti was going to be in there either, and I was really
I
happy to
didn't
see him.
realize I did not realize Paul Giamatti was going to be in here.
He was
That
good
was a
too. He was
surprise.
entertaining. Yeah, for the
I
small
love
amount of
that
screen
parrot
time he
man.
had. Oh, the parrot's great. Yeah.
The parrot was great. Where goes my money? That was beautiful.
Yes, yes.
I literally that like this is what I mean by like I feel like this is going to be a Pirates of the Caribbean type movie for this next generation because like it's so
Maybe.
quotable in that way. There were so many great small moments that kids are just going to latch on to and love and be able to use like in their playtime and everything and just going to be able to live in their mind for so long like Pirates of the Caribbean
Yeah.
did for me and a lot of others in my generation. That it's great. Like moments like that. Like I'm like, if I was a kid, I would have not, you wouldn't have been able to shut me up.
Yeah.
I would have been saying that until I had a headache.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I want it to be the Pirates of the Caribbean for the next generation, because again, this is
Mm-hmm.
one of the few that we've gotten recently that have done this genre successfully. It's the problem that not the problem I have with it, but the problem with that theory of it being that is that I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think that there's a thirst for this type of movie anymore. I think that
Mm-hmm.
this type of movie unfortunately just kind of died out for the new generation, I think, and I don't think that they're hungry for it. That's why the numbers are so low.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I let's say it. I mean, Marvel and Star
Yeah.
Wars took over, and I don't think
Right.
that if it's outside of that, I just don't think the new generation cares to see it so much
Mm-hmm.
anymore. It's unfortunate because this would be a really good movie for them.
Yeah.
But I think
I mean, I had a packed theater full of children and they loved it.
I'm glad. Yeah.
So for them, maybe.
It's not that they wouldn't like it if they saw it. I just
Yeah.
don't think that they have the thirst to seek it out
Right.
or watch it because the numbers don't lie. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not done too well, and this is definitely something that is for the family. And the
Mm-hmm.
families just aren't wanting to go see it, and that's I don't know why. But I think it might have something to do with the fact that this genre of movie has kind of screwed them over time and time again
Yeah.
with Disney, and they've kind of attempted this type of thing quite a few times in the
Mm-hmm.
past 5 years, and I don't think
Difference is this one is good. That's
uh,
why I have hope.
yeah, and I hope that people watch our thing here, and we bring awareness to that, and hopefully more reviewers do as well. Try to bring awareness
And
to
I
the
think
fact that this
people
is
will
actually
too.
good.
I think the people will like this movie.
Yeah.
The people who see it, I think, will enjoy it for the most part.
Yeah, I'm hoping for an increase next weekend with
Mm-hmm.
it, in the theater because hopefully word of mouth gets around enough to where people do go see it. I mean, it could be close to like Curse of the Black Pearl, because Curse of the Black Pearl was a smash, when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could be that it has
I
that.
don't know if it reaches that.
Maybe
But
not
yeah.
those numbers exactly, but
Uh-huh.
it's definitely like it could be the one that breaks out of these adventure films. Like Wrinkle
Mm-hmm.
in Time was it tanked if I'm not mistaken, right? I
Yeah.
mean, uh, it's just it's not been too good for Disney, but part of the benefit that I had is not knowing much about the ride. So, and
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of the same for me watching Pirates of the Caribbean as a kid. I'd heard of the ride, but I don't know much about it. So,
Yeah.
either way, like I kind of got to see this as like to me, it's just something new that's not Star Wars or Marvel, and it's just fresh,
Mm-hmm.
refreshing in that way. It feels more original and fresh for that reason that it's not necessarily based on anything except for the ride, but there's
Mm-hmm.
not like a book, I don't think, is there, that like tells this exact story that they based it on.
No.
Like, so this is something that was very original in so many
Mm-hmm.
ways, and they've Disney lost that, but they're back at it again. So it's yeah, let's make more of these, and hopefully this genre can come back because it's something that is very good and entertaining and just something that I used to look forward to, and now we just haven't had it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think so. Let's just get into it. I mean, we start out with, I'm trying to remember the movie. I'm gonna try to do just kind of like big clumps. Like
okay.
we get introduced to Emily Blunt and her brother. We set up that whole thing. We meet Dwayne Johnson. Frank, I believe. Frank, right? Yeah, Frank owes me money. Yeah, Frank.
Yeah.
The skipper on the Jungle Cruise, that was great. Did you like, you still thought that was funny and everything? Because the
Yeah.
thing about the Jungle Cruise is that the jokes are so bad that they're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm like, so if you, but a lot of people know that going in, you know what I mean? So it's kind of ironic when you laugh at it, is
yeah.
kind of the bit.
Yeah, no, I still was able to kind of look at it as sort of like they're dad jokes, you know what I mean? And like it's
Yes,
Dwayne Johnson
just
like
the point.
making dad jokes, and he
Yeah.
delivers it very well in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, this is going to be a really fun character to follow. This
Yeah.
guy who can't seem to break out of this shtick that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, immediately I was just on board with Dwayne Johnson. I had no problems with him,
Yeah.
and I also kind of liked it because it was in its own right kind of it showed a little bit of range for him in this movie
Mm-hmm.
where he's able to kind of channel this certain shtick that he has as the tour guide. And whether or not I've been on Jungle Cruise, we've all heard stories that the tour guide that just tells bad jokes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a common thing on
Right.
many tours, and that's part of the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Jungle Cruise. So yeah, I understood exactly what it was going for, had no gripes here. I
Nice.
thought the humor was just really funny. I was like, yes, I'm back. I'm watching a Dwayne Johnson summer blockbuster, and he's bringing that charm and charisma that he usually does. So I was happy. Yeah.
Beautiful. Nice. And so I also want to say I also really kind of enjoyed all of the fight and action sequences, like the first one where Emily Blunt is, running through the museum trying to do everything. And there's a total
Yeah.
moment. I feel like this was a reference to the mummy. I don't know if it was, but I feel like it was in my heart. I know it was, where she's like standing on the bookcase ladder, you know what I mean? And the part of the mummy where she does that, it knocks all of the
Yeah.
bookcases over. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And there's a part where she's standing on a ladder, and I went, oh my God, they know. Okay, at least they know.
Yeah, I thought about the
They
mummy
know
there
that
too.
they're the mummy. Because I
I
mean,
thought
the
about it.
plot of this movie on paper is, oh, so it's the mummy. That's the plot,
Sure.
which I loved. And I thought and you know what I mean? Like it was, but it wasn't Jungle Cruise.
Well, right,
It
because
was the
it's
mummy, but it wasn't.
because to me that was the thing about the movie. It wasn't the mummy. It wasn't. I mean, it is
Yeah.
the mummy though, but like it is also
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. It's also I even caught a
Yes.
couple Star Wars references in there. Um, but it's very it's very much a bunch of things. It's kind of a collective
Mm-hmm.
of a bunch of things. Like you could
Yeah.
tell Jamie Claret Serra, the director, like he's definitely inspired
Yes.
by like a lot of the things that
All of that.
I grew up on as well.
Yes.
And so he's taken inspiration from that, and I think that's perfectly okay. He did a really good job directing this movie in a lot of ways. The one thing,
Mm-hmm.
let me point this out too, because this is one of my bigger gripes with the
Mm-hmm.
it's not even necessarily a spoiler. The one thing I noticed throughout the movie that I kind of had a gripe about was the effects didn't look as polished as they could have been. There were so many times where
Yeah.
I was looking at it and I was like, that's real evident green screen right there. And I'm thinking
Yeah.
that it kind of had something to do with the pandemic a little bit, because I was thinking that they probably didn't want to spend any more money on this than they had
Mm-hmm.
to polish things up. So I think they just wanted to get it to not making an excuse. It still looks not so
Yeah.
great sometimes, but I think that they were just trying to get it to a passable level, you know, to where it was like we don't have to spend any more than we have to. So that was my biggest gripe with the movie. But that said, on the
Yeah.
side of like cinematography, it looks fine. Like it's a well
Right.
shot movie. I'm not gonna give
But no, like some of the like for me it was a lot of the animals. The animals all looked like real CGI animals. Like the tiger, every time they showed like the hippos and stuff later on, like
yeah.
when they show all of their faces and all of them, you're like, I can just tell because I have a trained eye and I know that that's
Yeah.
CGI.
Yeah.
I've seen it done better, I can tell.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean,
But
like the background and stuff and cinematography wise and
yeah.
everything does look pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. It's just
Yeah.
there's parts where yeah, I mean, because there's some effects that look really great, and then there's others that don't. But then there's other parts like
Mm-hmm.
where Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt are standing in a location, and it could be, it's like it's evidently green screen. Like
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it. It's just it's very blatant sometimes.
And a lot of the
And
stuff towards the end too was like, this was the you
yeah,
guys really didn't have enough time to finish this or something, huh?
sure, sure.
Yeah.
But other stuff looked really great, you know, so it was
Mm-hmm.
like it was almost like they finished part of it and then other parts they just didn't get around to polishing, and they probably said we're not going to spend any more on this because we just lost billions of
Yeah.
dollars due to this pandemic. So we don't really want to polish it up any more than we have to.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to put it at a passable level. I'm just saying I've seen it done better at this point in time. So it kind of made the
Same.
movie
Yeah.
look a little bit dated. I hope that, well, it probably won't. I mean, but my hope, this is a pipe dream, but someday they do go back and finish it up, you know, polish it up a little bit and make it look
Mm-hmm.
better. But that's all right. It's a pipe dream. So
Sorry, we can all have those.
maybe this could become a cult
Um,
classic. This will be the next Princess Bride. Who knows?
maybe, and we'll get a remastered
Yeah,
edition.
who knows?
Who knows, man? Let me see. I also thinking about it. I also really loved the whole sequence in the whole kind of not bar, I guess you could call it a bar, but like when they're trying with after they've met for the first time and they've like convinced her to go on the Jungle Cruise with them, but then her brother and Paul Giamatti actually come in and then the tiger comes in. You know what I mean? That whole sequence.
Yeah,
I thought that was really great.
yeah,
I found that to be like that again. That's what I'm like. That was a fun action adventure, Indiana Jones type. A situation, B choreography, and C like direction and everything, and character. By the way, it had a character. It wasn't an action sequence just for an action sequence. Like
yeah.
there were character moments in it. It meant something for that moment to happen.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was great.
I felt that way well through most of the movie, that it was just really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I mean the beginning especially, I didn't gripe on the action sequences at all. I mean, I thought they
Yeah.
just were all very fun and very well paced, except for by the time I finished the movie and realized it was like over 2 hours long, I was like, maybe they could have shortened some of those action sequences to save a little time.
Yeah.
But for the most part,
We
yeah, it
could
was
have,
all good.
yeah, we could have cut some of it down. There were some moments where people have conversations just off somewhere, and I'm like, we could have made this one big scene, and it would have been 5 minutes shorter.
Maybe,
We could have
yeah.
cut down some of these action moments.
It is a
Like,
little overlong, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, that's. I mean, I agree with your nitpick there. That's definitely just a
yeah.
little overlong.
That was my big nitpick.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not like overlong. Like I'm not stressed like I am a lot of the times. It's just that you could
Hmm.
tell that there were definitely things they could have trimmed. You know, it was just one of
Yes.
those things. But I wasn't
Just needed a
overstressed.
trim. It needed one more like comb through.
Yeah, not too much of a trim, just a little trim. You know, it
Yeah.
was like one of those things. It's like
Like
could
half
use
an
just a
inch, you know?
tad bit of a trim.
Yeah.
Just because I mean, I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of like kids that are going. It's like they're probably not
Right.
going to want to sit through the whole thing.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, it's a lot harder to sit through a 2 hour
Hmm.
movie, as I recall. So,
No, there were some squirmy kids
oh yeah,
in my theater, so they
yeah,
were into it, but they were squirmy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, but at least it's a fun movie, you know, at the end of the
Hmm.
day. So that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too much there. Um,
Hmm.
no, I mean, I don't really. Yeah, the beginning stuff is all really, really fun.
Hmm.
I don't really have any gripes here or anything to really add on top of your statement other than like, I mean, pretty much the editing style, which is really interesting. This is something I was noticing throughout the movie, the way that it was actually cut together. This isn't
Hmm.
a problem, by the way. This isn't a nitpick or a gripe. It's just, it's a very kind of, I don't know if you noticed it at all, but the way that Jean Claret Sarah seemed to
Hmm.
Colette Sarah, I'm sorry, seemed to edit or want this movie to be paced was it was a very quick, cutty kind of style a lot of the time,
Hmm.
and I typically don't like that. So this is actually a compliment to him that he found a way to do that without it feeling like it was messy or chopped short.
Right.
It
Yeah.
felt all very together, and he felt like he was very much in control of how this was put together.
Hmm.
Like it didn't feel like anybody, you know, was like cutting things out of it or anything like that. It felt very cohesive. So
Yeah.
I was
I feel like
happy with that.
a lot of that too, I feel like is probably the actors. Cause I feel like they, again, like we always use this terminology, but it's a perfect way to describe it. They understood the assignment like Dwayne Johnson totally did. And I feel like he just gave Emily Blunt the lecture and then she understood it as well.
Yeah.
So, because I feel like that's important with movies like this. Like, again, like you can credit, Curse of the Black Pearl to like how incredible Johnny Depp was in that movie and how consistent he was. And,
Yeah.
that's the things like that are important to audiences that
Hmm.
this kind of energy is built throughout. So, yeah.
Yeah. Energy is a good word. This movie has a lot of
Yes.
energy because,
Yeah, and
uh,
consistent energy,
yeah,
or together. It
yeah.
doesn't feel messy.
It's just yeah,
Cohesive is the word.
it's
Yeah.
extremely fast paced in a lot of parts, and at the same
Hmm.
time, it just doesn't fall apart. And I was very impressed with that. How quickly he wanted to cut it and how quickly he
Hmm.
wanted to pace it without it feeling like it just fell apart at any point. And that's very rare on these movies. It didn't. It felt all very in control of everything it was trying to do. And the second, this is the other thing I wanted to add, was Emily
Hmm.
Blunt's performance here is very good. I mean, the second that she jumped on the screen here, I mean, I was just like, okay, she's really gonna give that
Yeah.
really sort of quick wit like type
Hmm.
humor that I really dig when it's pulled off well, and she knows how to do that very well.
Yes.
It was all just right for her. You know, all the writing was good. So
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, like the only thing I can kind of I'm thinking to compare it to, which is again like Rachel Weisz in The Mummy, she just has
yeah,
that kind of quick thing where she's like just as smart as you, she knows what she's doing, knows exactly what.
yeah,
Again, like her brother says it, like says something like she does it first and then plans it after, or worries about it after, or something like that.
yeah. That's
And
yeah,
and that's the and you just get that from just her vibe. You know what I mean? You don't have to be told that. You
yeah.
you understand that already just because Emily Blunt's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. She just
Yeah.
yeah, I like the sort of her and Jack Whitehall both kind of have this like really fast talking type of
Hmm.
way about them, and it's very good. It just plays
Yeah.
well. So yeah,
They I feel like have a very similar sense of humor. You
very
know what I
much.
mean? Like I
Hmm.
feel like
Yeah,
their energy was very similar because I think their sense of humors are on the same
Yeah,
wavelength,
that's probably the best way to put why that relationship worked very well, is that both actors just seemed like they were on the same page throughout the entirety of the movie. And for some reason, that's a rare thing to get anymore, where you get two actors that are
Once you see
perfectly
it,
on level. Yeah.
yeah. Once you see it, it makes it really clear when it's the opposite and you're like, oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it, man. Yep.
For sure.
Let me think. So, and then we have, I mean, I didn't think that much of the villains. The villains were, they were
I
fine.
liked them. I
You
mean,
liked them?
Jesse Plemons,
Nice.
if we're gonna count him, I mean, he was
Well, right.
entertaining. He
Yeah, he
was
was
super
entertaining.
entertaining. I mean, okay, like if we're gonna talk like high stakes villains, like they're not like extremely dark villains. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, the one part where I felt like it was like extremely dark and high stake was with the what do you call them, the headhunters, and like they ended up not even being headhunters. You know, that was a whole thing. He tricked them
Oh,
into,
right.
yeah. So yeah, by the way, in that moment too, just to
Yeah.
jump ahead a little bit here, with the headhunters, when he
Uh-huh.
was like, it's only a scam if you fall for it. I was like,
Yeah.
some writer somewhere overheard Bob Chapek talking one day, and Bob Chapek probably said that line, and they were like, that's a good line. We're gonna use that in the movie. That's the first thing I thought of when he said that.
You said it, not me. But I'm not gonna say that I don't endorse it.
Sorry, Disney. I mean, I liked your movie a
I
lot.
know.
I liked your movie a great deal. I'm giving
But
you
I feel like you're right. Don't tell anybody.
exactly.
But no, honestly.
They had to come from
Also,
Chapek.
real quick, I forgot about this. I really just liked and appreciated. So the kind of leader of them is Trader Sam, which is a reference to The Ride. There's like a character named Trader
Okay.
Sam, but they made her a woman. And as a girl named Sam, I appreciated that
Fair
because
enough.
it's a gender neutral name and there's not enough female
Yeah.
Sams.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. That was
And,
a small thing. I was like, that was for me. And
yeah.
I saw it and I appreciated it.
Well, good. I'm glad you had that. It didn't make a
Thank
difference to me
you.
because I didn't have any attachment to
I
that.
know.
But
It
I'm
was
glad
just
you
for
liked
me.
it. I'm glad you liked it.
Literally, like nobody else but me
Yeah.
would be like, oh my God, they made Trader Sam a girl. I love it.
Yeah.
No one else. But here I am. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Bob.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. But yeah, I didn't think any of the other villains, though, were really that noteworthy. I mean, I mentioned again, the parrot was great and Jesse Plemons was entertaining, but I mean, all of the other ones, I was like,
I like the dude with the
they
snake
were
coming
kind of
out of
all
his
right.
cheek. I thought that was cool. Like when that
I
snake
mean, it
popped
was
out of
cool,
him,
right? It was
I was like, oh
cool.
shit. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
It
it's
was, I guess it was interesting, but also forgettable for me.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, I thought that the villains worked for what the movie was going to be. I actually, for some reason, call me crazy, like these villains for this movie. I don't think
Fair.
I didn't really expect much from them. I guess in the first place, so I was
Mm-hmm.
so just the fact alone that Jesse Plemons was playing one was like a huge credit to the movie, and I had no idea he was going to be a villain, you know,
Yeah.
or anybody in this movie. I didn't know he was in there, so was really thrilled with that. I think what really makes this movie work though, to bounce off what you're saying though with your critique on the villains,
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that the conflict with the villains isn't what's driving the story. It's kind of
Right.
Dwayne
It's
Johnson's,
Emily Blunt's kind of
right, like Dwayne Johnson
adventure.
and Emily
Yeah.
Blunt's kind of like back and forth, I think, is
Mm-hmm.
what's really driving it, and their sort of conflict, and maybe even Dwayne Johnson's like internal conflict with himself to try to figure out, you know, what he's going to do with himself, you know, after all is said and done. Which, by the way, very unexpected twist. I did not
I
see that coming.
also I also did not expect that twist. Thank you. I wrote that in my notes. I wrote cool twist.
It was a
I
good
did not see
twist.
that one
It
coming.
was a good one, yeah, for sure.
I did not see that coming. I will hand it to you.
I thought that was hilarious, though, the way that was revealed and the fact that Emily Blunt had to try to get that sword out of him.
That was kind of funny.
Really funny stuff, and the way
Yeah.
that she was describing the shape of it,
Uh-huh.
I was laughing pretty hard at that. That was
Yeah.
really really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was watching this movie and I was like, this is when the stuff was actually really making me laugh, I was like, this is a breath of fresh air, because the last time they tried to do one of these that was like really funny at the same time of being like the adventure film was Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and that failed miserably for me.
Talk about a stink bomb.
All the humor in that, there was maybe one or two good jokes, but like for the most part, that humor was like
a stink bomb.
Ooh. Yeah,
that was a stinker.
It was refreshing to see it worked here for that reason. Yeah, it was definitely a stinker. Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. I also think for me, the writing I thought was pretty good in this movie too. Solid. It's got kind of a bunch of writers, which usually is not very good in the Hollywood world.
I noticed that when I was looking at the credits that they did have a pretty big
like
writing
6
team
or something.
Yeah, you would have thought this was a TV show based on the writing team that they had because it was so many. But hey, it worked out.
But it came together pretty well, I do have to say. And like they had, again, like I said, there were some really good lines. There was like, again, it had a really cool twist in the plot. It was very cohesive. It was fun. It had high energy the whole time. Like it was over. Like I kind of can't believe it that all of those people wrote that cohesive of a script.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I bet you Cisco hated this movie.
Ooh, what do you think he felt? I feel like he's probably like, it was too long. It wasn't funny.
Too long. Wasn't funny. I bet he calls it
He's got to feel like the actors were good, though, at least. At least Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson. That's the thing. If anybody says like, "Oh, I didn't like their chemistry. They had no charisma at all,"
he's gonna
get the hell out of here.
If I'm gonna predict it, he's gonna say that Emily Blunt is so much better than this. That's what he's gonna say. He didn't like Quiet Place 2 that much. Like,
that's true. I mean, but did he not like it because of Emily Blunt? Like, did he not like her in it?
No, I don't think that's the problem. I think he likes Emily Blunt. I just think he's gonna think that she was so much better in this movie and that she shouldn't be doing it. and to his credit, she is like a top tier and can do whatever the hell she wants, I think. But I don't think there's any problem with her wanting to do something fun for the family either. You know, I look at it that way, to where it's like maybe she just wants to settle down and entertain people.
And something kind of low stakes too, because like the past times she's worked for Disney, it's been, you know, Mary Poppins and Into the Woods, which was a huge musical adaptation. You know, so, and for this is kind of, you know, this is Dwayne Johnson for the main part. I mean, I would argue that actually Emily Blunt is the main character of the movie, but for the most part, this is Dwayne Johnson's movie.
I think,
you know,
well, he gets top billing because he's
billed
Dwayne
first,
Johnson. Yeah. Well, that's just because he's Dwayne Johnson and we see him first in the movie. That's the only reason he gets top billing. But
do we?
Yeah, you see him before Emily Blunt. Just a little bit, but yeah.
Okay.
He definitely shows up first.
Just okay, because I remember, because the opening I liked how it's like that speech that the brother's giving.
Right. Yeah, we see him just a little bit before her, just a little bit. And then she comes in after, I'm pretty sure.
Because he has like a grand entrance when he does come on, like he puts the cap on. It's like he has an entrance.
Yeah. For sure. Oh,
it was like a ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Skipper Frank. Yeah. It was at that moment.
And what was his real name? Do you remember? Because when he reveals that,
Francisco something. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because he revealed that he was like 400 years old, and I'm sitting there still thinking about it's only a scam if you fall for it. I bet you he's lying to her again. But you know, I don't know. I mean, once you got into like the humor of it all, and it was like the way they were playing it, I was like, oh, okay, they're actually like gonna stick with this. Like this is a real thing he's telling her here, because you don't trust him for a good long while there. He's kind of untrustworthy. Like he's trustworthy, that he's not trustworthy for a while, and then he's trustworthy again.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Which is a part of what makes which is part of what makes their core relationship so great, because that's honestly my favorite part of this movie. What, like, fully talking about it is their relationship and chemistry and everything. And you know, that's a part of why it's so good. Yeah, I think I
loved when they were going down the cave and he named off.
You never know. Mm-hmm.
he named off one of those dad jokes in the middle of this like really intense
Yeah.
situation. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't shut it off.
Uh-huh. There was a really funny joke too that was in Emily Blunt where Dwayne Johnson goes like they're going over a cliff or like going through the rapids, I think, and he's
Yeah.
just like, "All right, it's time. I think you should quit." And she just goes, "I think you should quit the
Yeah.
guitar." I'm
That's a
like,
good
that
one.
was funny. It was the way she
Yeah.
said it was so funny. Like
Yeah.
I was
I,
like A plus.
I love the sequence, by the way, just in editing terms, when he was shooting her on the old film, and then they were having the conversation,
Yeah.
and every time it transitioned into the old film,
Right.
it would be like silent, and I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
really, really dug that. That was like really
Yeah.
interesting. That was a really cool little editing trick. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the other one I really liked is when they got shot by the darts. I was like, oh, that looked cool. The way they did it, and
Right.
the slow mo
Yeah.
looked really good there.
Mm-hmm.
The way that was pulled off, because the dart really came out of nowhere, and then it was
Mm-hmm.
like once it shot her, it was like everything slowed down. I was like,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool editing. So, um, yeah, but you're right. I mean, their relationship is so good. I mean, it's in the trailer, so I knew it was coming, but I definitely thought of Star Wars when they did the rope swing. I was like, that's
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars right there. They're doing the Luke and
Yeah.
Leia, except it fails. So it kind of
Uh-huh.
added a little spin to it,
Yeah.
where he doesn't make it over the edge, which I thought was
Mm-hmm.
also pretty funny. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this movie just it really fires on all cylinders in a lot of ways. Like for the summer blockbuster adventure film made by Disney, it works in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't try to be anything else, which I was just super appreciative of. It didn't want to be anything else. It was just like, we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna keep it really simple, folks, and this is what you're getting.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. I mean, I really don't have much else other than, I again, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was so much fun. I think Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson have incredible chemistry. They both just ooze charisma and are the most charming people I've ever seen in my life. And it's 2 hours of them just, witting back and forth with, doing witty banter back and forth,
Yeah,
and it's great in the jungle. It's a
yeah,
lot of fun. I think kids will love it. I think if you like the whole kind of action adventure Indiana Jones type of the mummy historical type of vibe in your movies, then I think you'll really enjoy this one. You'll at
Hmm.
least appreciate it. You'll have fun nonetheless.
Yeah. I think
That's
so.
my overall thoughts. You got anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to throw out a couple other points here too, for sure.
Yeah,
The
go for
one
it.
thing
Sure.
that I wanted to throw in was the twist in general. This is where I think the
Mhm.
movie, if anything will make it happen, this is the part where it's definitely probably going to lose people, is the twist, because it is a
Really?
stretch to start to believe that he's 400 years old, given, but on the same hand, if
I
Dwayne
bought it.
Johnson.
I'm like, he's immortal.
I
It's
bought
all
it too,
right.
but I feel like I only bought it because Dwayne
People can
Johnson
be
was.
immortal in movies. That's fine.
It was the way that Dwayne Johnson was selling it that I felt like it worked. I feel like if he wasn't selling it the way he was, because they did that
Yeah.
whole flashback sequence and he's looking like the Scorpion King. Speaking of the mummy,
And
but
it's the fact too that it helps explain like why he's so clever and why he's so knowledgeable about
definitely,
everything.
definitely,
It's a good explanation to it because on the actual ride of the Jungle Cruise, it's just kind of like this is your skipper
yeah,
and it's fine.
yeah,
But for all of that to go down in actuality, it would have to be you'd have to come up with some kind of story. So why not have him be,
yeah. I'm just saying.
400 years old? He was a conquistador that got cursed. Why not?
I'm just saying I like it. I'm good with it, but I can see how somebody would have a problem with it, and like
Sure.
see it as a stretch and be like, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. Um, just for sure. Like if somebody like came out of this movie and was like, I didn't really buy that, I'd be like, all right, I kind of see where you're coming from because it's a big stretch. While I liked it and I was on board,
I
and
don't know
it
if it's
didn't.
that big of a stretch, but sure.
It's a stretch. Um. 400 years old. I mean, come on, and it kind of comes out of there
People
abruptly.
can be you never seen a movie where someone's 400 years old. That can happen.
All right. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to
You ever
throw
do you
out.
ever watch a vampire movie? Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Come
No, it
on.
happens. I'm just saying it was a stretch in this context. I think that for some people, they're going to have a hard time getting on board. I did find it to be abrupt, but I didn't hate it. I liked it. It didn't ruin it for me, especially once he told the story and gave a reasoning to it. I was like, okay, I'm on board. But I'm just saying, I just wouldn't be surprised if somebody bitched about it. That's all. But the other thing that I wanted to throw out was the ending. I wanted to ask what you thought of the ending in particular, just kind of how everything went down with him making the choice that he did, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, because I thought it was
Um,
a really good climactic ending, or it was
yeah, I mean, I
exciting.
did like it. I did like that he made a choice and the whole thing of being like, tell her she would have been enough for me and all of that. And
Yeah,
then that whole end moment. And no, I'm sure a lot of the kids in my audience were on the edge of their seat on whether he really died or not. But I was sitting there being like, okay,
yeah,
in five, four,
yeah,
three,
yeah.
two,
Me
oh,
too.
wow, he's awakened.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah,
it didn't really hit me emotionally, you know what I mean? But
me.
I
Yeah,
still, but then like sitting back from it though, I'm like, but that's fine. I'm
yeah,
not angry about it. It's a trope that I knew what was going to happen, but
yeah.
I'm not bitter about it. I'm not like this stupid movie was predictable, blah. I'm like it was fine.
No, I mean, I figured
Yes,
they
I
were.
did know that he was, but it's whatever.
No, I figured they were going to keep him alive and all. It was just
Mhm.
one of those things too, where it was like it could have really gone either way. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean,
I wasn't sitting there thinking that.
no, me either. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew once she put the flour in him, I was like, yeah, he's coming back,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
easily. It was just more of a matter of like it might not have though. There's a slight chance, I guess. But
Mhm.
I think the thing that I really liked was the way that they even before that when they the way that they set it up to where he was like, I'll die before I do that, and then like it was kind of like a wink without them actually winking at each other. I was like, that was a
Right.
really
Yeah.
little clever beat that they threw
I
in there.
liked
That
that.
was
I remember
really
that.
good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
And then she shot him, and I was
There
like,
was a lot of
good shit.
really good moments. Sorry to interrupt. There was
You're
a
fine.
lot of really good moments that like of just kind of like close-ups on his face or close-ups on Emily Blunt's face or kind of that kind of thing where the audience sees something that the other person in the scene doesn't see or isn't supposed to see, but we see it. You know what I mean? They think
Right.
no one else can see it, but the audience can. There was a couple of those moments, and I love things like that. That I
Mm-hmm.
think is like shows the work of like someone who really understands filmmaking, who's able to throw in moments like that. And there was
Yeah.
a good couple, like exactly like that moment. It was just you just see it happen. No one says anything, but you piece it together
Yeah.
as the audience member.
Yeah.
That was
Uh,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
Love
They
that
they
moment.
just they set that up very well throughout the movie
Mm-hmm.
for it to be that way. It was like the fact that going back to the twist that he was 400 years
Right.
old. He was pretty much immortal at that point. It was like, yeah, okay. I mean, they set that up really nicely. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think once you see that, like, even if you have a problem with the twist at first, you'll probably get back on board by that point because you're like, okay, they're actually utilizing it to,
Mm-hmm.
get away with it at the
It
end, and it,
mattered.
it did matter.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing I wanted to build on from the twist, me saying that people were going to have a problem with it. It was like, well, they'll probably get back on board though too.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does get utilized very well. It's important, it's significant. And then the other one that I wanted to talk about here was, while yes, I figured he was gonna live. The second she put the flower in his mouth, I was like, okay, no turning back now. Like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
and 5, 4, I was waiting on it. Um,
Yeah.
but the thing I wanted to say though is, even with that, I think the reason that it still worked for me, even though it was kind of predictable, and the reason I'm fine with it is because Emily Blunt in her performance was still very much selling the dramatic
Right.
stake of that, because she there's something to her. She can really just sell a moment, like
She's just
you.
one of the greatest actresses we have. Period.
Right,
Like
you believe.
she's just it. She has it.
Yeah, you definitely believe that she's very torn up in that final moment there.
Mhm.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And this is something that actually probably is an aspect of the movie that will probably just get kicked under the rug, but I think it's important to bring up because it's probably it's not really easy to pull off, I don't think. Being a filmmaker is the fact that you started with Dwayne Johnson, who you didn't really know how to feel about him from the very beginning. I mean, you liked having his presence in the movie, but you didn't really know how to feel about where his loyalties lied and things like that. And the fact
Mm-hmm.
that by the end of the movie, they made him extremely likable. Like you wanted him to survive.
Yeah.
You wanted, him to just, you wanted him and Emily Blunt to ride off in the sunset. Which
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
is predictable too because there were definitely like flirty areas, but there was a part
Mm-hmm.
of Frank in the
Definitely.
beginning that I mean also came off a little bit arrogant, and you
Mm-hmm.
just really didn't know if he was actually arrogant, but then you find out he's guy's been alive for like 400 years, so he's just a little bit bitter because nothing is new to him. And I really liked how
Yeah.
they explained that as well,
Yeah.
that the
I
fact like
agree.
the way that he went into that where it was like nothing's ever
Yes.
new anymore. I mean, what's the point? And a lot of people like probably don't think about that in their real life when they think about
Right.
like I don't ever want to die. It's like but eventually nothing's going to be new. Nothing's going to
Mm-hmm.
be fresh, and to live forever would get
And the
pretty
only
old.
thing that's new would be death at some point, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
definitely other movies that have played into that before, but it's I thought there was a certain charm to the
In a
way they did
Disney
it here.
movie right here, like Pirates of the Caribbean didn't stop and have a moral monologue in the middle of it.
Yeah, true. Exactly. And I think that yeah, exactly. And I just thought there was a certain charm to the way it was done here. This movie throughout is it's very charming, I guess is probably the
Yeah.
best way to put it. There's a charm to it regardless of
Perfect word.
all
Yes.
of the, there's definitely negatives and gripes, and it's not the most spectacular thing you'll see, but it is charming. It's charming
Mm-hmm.
enough to watch, and it's charming enough to watch again. I don't need to see it right away, but it's definitely one I want to rewatch in the future. It's definitely one I'm gonna get on 4K because I'm gonna want to revisit it again. So I really liked it. It's good stuff all around. I mean, everybody, the cast is not a problem with it. They all did very well. The
Mm-hmm.
direction is actually pretty good. It's a good looking movie for the most part. Like we said, certain effects, maybe won't hold up, but for the most part, it's fun. I
Pretty
think,
solid flick.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know I could show this to like my nieces and nephews, and they would
Mm-hmm.
probably have a good time with it too. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing that I really liked about it. It's just it's a good one for kids. If they wanted to watch it, they can. And
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't honestly, like with the exception of maybe like the snake guy might be a little scary for him. For certain children, it's pretty
Oh my God. Real quick, for
yeah.
me, there's a moment where Emily Blunt gets stuck in a cage with all of these exotic birds, and all of the birds are flying around her. I literally was like, the movie's acting, and it was acted like, oh, it's so funny that she got stuck in here. And I'm like, I would have had a panic attack. I would have died. That was that was scarier than anything else in that movie to me, was the idea of being stuck in a cage with birds flying around you. I have like a phobia of birds, in case anyone doesn't know. It's bad. That was horrifying to me. I was like, we're treating this too, it's like a funny bit, and it's not funny. Okay, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
But yes, the other things were scary as well. That was the scariest for me. What is this,
um
PG? This is PG,
it's
right?
PG, I think. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's stayed at a PG.
sounds right.
um yeah, which is Pirates of the Caribbean, that's PG-13, so
13.
um yeah, pretty interesting that they managed to keep it at a PG. But
Mm-hmm.
no, I mean there's nothing too, what I mean, like violent or
Yeah.
I think Pirates of the Caribbean was more violent. That's probably why it had to go up to the PG-13, I would say.
Yes. And was a bit scarier. Like for me, I was
Yeah.
horrified by
Yeah.
like when the
Oh yeah.
pirates turn into the skeletons at
Oh
night
yeah.
and she's
Yeah.
running around the ship. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
It's very freaky.
horrifying.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
movie's, I mean, that first one especially is a lot darker than this is, but
Mm-hmm.
not to say that this didn't have its dark areas. It definitely did.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what else to add at this point. I
I
really
know,
had a fun
yeah.
time with it. I hope people go see it. I really do. If you were on the fence, go see it. I really think that you might want to give this a shot. Like Sammy was saying, that if nothing else, you'll have fun. you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anybody walking out of this being like uber disappointed or just pissed off at the world, you know. Like
Yeah. Or
this
like
isn't one of
bored.
those
Yeah.
things that's gonna like, you know, ruin your night, you know. It's
Yeah.
you're gonna walk out of it, you're gonna go, hey, it was a shot, you know. I gave it a shot. Even if you didn't like it, that's probably the reaction. I gave it a shot, you know.
Yeah.
I had some fun. So
Totally. Yeah.
good stuff.
It was a great fun time. Enjoyed it a lot. Check it out. That's all I got. That's all you got.
All
We're gonna
right.
wrap up.
All right.
All right, that has been this episode of Movie Night. Thank you guys for watching. I've been Samee Ramirez. You guys can find me on Twitter at Samee Ramirez, or on Instagram at Samee Ramirez 14, or you can find the show on Twitter or Instagram at Anorax Official. We're also on Spotify, and we have a merch link that is right down there.
Yep.
Right? Am I pointing the right way? Right there. There we go. Yeah, and Dom, where can people find you? Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, so we just did our latest episode of the Monthly Mumble with myself and Adam Leach. We really have a lot of fun doing that. We went for like 4 hours this time, so if you want to indulge us, go check that out for sure. We got into some very interesting topics on, first of all, he had just seen Quiet Place 2, so we kind of talked about his feelings on that, and then we kind of led into this crazy conversation about the problems with the movie industry and things that, you know, we could definitely improve, and I think we had a really healthy conversation about it. And so, you know, I think it's worth checking out for that reason. We definitely had some audio problems on my end in that episode, and I'll admit that was completely my fault. Not going to blame that one on technology, but it won't happen again, guys. Making sure I'm testing everything first so we won't have that. It's an echo problem on my end. So anyway, I do hope everybody does go check that out. It is on Spotify right now. We're going to try to get it back up onto the YouTube channel. We are currently in the middle of a copyright dispute, so that's always fun. But anyway, guys, yeah, you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter at Dom_Martino_ and on Instagram Dom_Martino_ official. So make sure you follow me there for sure. And I just also put up a non-spoiler version of this review, so if you wanted to check that out as well. Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Yeah. All right. And next week, we are going to be doing not a movie for children at all. We're doing The Suicide Squad.
That's right.
I'm very excited about that. So come back next week for that.
Getting great reviews.
Is it getting great reviews? Okay.
They're like,
I'm excited for it.
Most people are saying it is the best DCEU movie for sure. So without a doubt. So.
Well, we will be the judge of that, and you will find out the answer next week. So come back and check us out for that. But until then, have a great week, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Goodbye.